You have a proposed agenda here before us. Presiding is myself, Seth Damon, Speaker of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. And then before we go on, let's make sure we officially have a quorum. So Ms. Notas is going to go ahead and read off the roll call, and then we'll go on from there.
Good morning, honorable committee members. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen's present. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. answered. Roll call. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown is present.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown answered. Roll call. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. Honorable Eugenia
Newton is present.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton answered. Roll call. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty.
Yes, attended. This is Delegate Amber Kines-Balcrady.
Honorable
I'm
Amber
on the call.
Canasba.
Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty answered. Roll call. Honorable Speaker Seth Damon. Honorable Speaker Seth Damon answered. Roll call. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
Good morning. I'm here.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. answered. Roll call. Honorable Mark Freeland. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Morning, Freeland's here, sorry.
Honorable Mark Freeland answered. Roll call. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Hello, is present. Thank you. Good morning.
Honorable Pernell Halona answered. Roll call. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo answered. Roll call. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Rick Nez.
Good morning. Delegate Rick Nez is present.
Honorable Rick Nez answered. Roll call. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater present.
Honorable Carl Slater answered. Roll call. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Present.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. answered. Roll call. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Present.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. answered. Roll call. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
I'm present.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. answered. Roll call. Honorable Edison Wanika.
Here.
Honorable Edison Wanika answered. Roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I'm here. Good morning.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair answered. Roll call. Going back up, Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James. Honorable Vince James did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Daniel So.
I'm here.
Honorable Daniel So answered. Roll call. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So did not answer. Roll call. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Edmund Yazzie did not answer. Roll call. Speaker, you have 17 members present, including yourself.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you very much, colleagues, for being here with us this morning. That 17 members present was thank you very much again, colleagues. That, let me go ahead and continue on. We do have 17 members present this morning. That does make a quorum for us. Let me go.
Speaker Damon, I'm sorry for interrupting. Delegate Paul Begay on the line. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Paul Begay. Thank you for being here with us. That's 18 members present that are here for quorum. That, let me go ahead and ask Honorable Stewart. Good morning, Honorable Stewart. You mind doing an invocation for us this morning?
No, I don't mind, Speaker. I can do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll go ahead and say our prayer this morning. Committee dan ik lenigi members dan ik lenigi na best master dan ik plong corner na ding deal na corner then hit the joke corner kwa igi area na behobe care a car down area representing on corner kwa igi and here na ne kai corner di bini bi kwa ni gender hello corner kwa igi age na go ho ba den it in lo ba ya del kit do le do kwa igi area ni hiza lenigi ni in case lenigi na go corner be na go corner ya te ho ya na del kit do le corner di jam and the corner so ya de corner he haia to ya de corner he corner so he get us so e the end the net than leaning corner na Jesus Christ leaning corner and that in your dating bohon leaning corner jana go corner deep and down be corner the DJ that did not corner kaya da hot eto less corner and the corner his staff and leaning corner executive branch judicial branch legislative branch at the corner kayana da hot eto less corner deep in the corner ja der kommt na del stole ja der corner na dal stole corner ja der kommt na da hit arle von this morning corner kwagi even yenge so the some yenge na ish control corner and the corner one has age corner ja der corner one nanast arle corner ja der corner also he get us in corner do ja der corner tion die capital wala corner ja der corner dann he la all was do corner ja der corner do ni da that day, Jackie, in that day, Jackie, Nigo day, Jackie, the corner, talk about all of what's corner though. In our glory than lean, the combatriada hot egg, lean, the Bebekashi that egg, the ledge hunt the corner and the commas, once than leaning, check it the corner, so that Asian than he now push than leaning combatriada hot egg, the don't not push up a long corner though. The jet than sergeant art of a national corn, the Benibia corn, and the corner is called on the general corner, and set than lineage and than leaning corner, I don't know, settle that one lineage corner, when he check Queen Lagi corner at Eho corner. Trinanil ino the corner on him, some is called a corn, the general corn, the Yeholon, the corns on his morning without even edges of the center of the corner, and the corner at Eho corner alone. That the corner nanically, the he gained, he cast and leaning corner, Triada hot eto corner. Laid up at the Shenegi into the corner, at Eho corner, Triada hot eto corner. And that or not no settle the corner, a large corner, and that his twin, his eye, and leaning corner, but Riada, and then a hill corner, a low other Yanni corner, Mado Jet, and again, a chamber, and Alice, he understand the leaning corner, Triada hot eight to the corner, Cheneta corner, Donada, old cut or that corner, and the corner, the corner, DG, he hit her 9 sneaky corner. That's other needs other later like corner to yet a corner the immune system and leaning corner and he cells and leaning corner genogo but innocent like corner the yan leaning corner he get a corner nani in the tota that a corner is donat like at a corner he cells and leaning on the immune system leaning on the cut of all the corners on his morning without even just the same engine I can't like corner and then his salad and leaning on he EMTs and then he firefighters and leaning on Hablas non-cloud like corner the corner at the corner the military personnel then he veterans the corner and then he nahlad and leaning corner the pastors and preachers and leaning the corner and then the corner his queen his eye when Taradina had the health hospital corner the citizen then leaning begin the leaning corner at the material hot eclair corner and so he didn't like could even engine nice second on the corner the corner out of the corner hayat another journalist on he did and that is in Bessen, he out of Bassadas and the corner out hit out Elangelo corn shop and some case like on this morning could add and do it a boarding corner. Even engine so that's the engine I second and the head ego that says the could our house zeta the could answers case and quiet corner the shop that's non land the general corn at the shashed and nine left on this morning could our the engine so the say these things in your Holy Son's name, Jesus Christ, amen. Justly, Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Thank you very much, Honorable Stewart, for that wonderful invocation this morning. Thank you for blessing the day and blessing the nation too as well, and everybody that's under us, under the rainbow here. With that, colleagues, let's go ahead and continue on down. Item number 2, recognizing guests and visiting officials. Are there any recognitions this morning?
Speaker, Delegate Otto.
Honorable Otto, so go ahead, floor is yours.
This is use recognition to indicate that I'm on the line and for the record for this meeting here.
Thank you, Honorable Otto. So with that, colleagues, any other recognitions at this time?
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Good morning, Honorable Daniels. Yate, floor is yours.
Yeah, good morning, Mr. Chair. 24th Council, Naabik'íyáti committee members. Yeah, I don't know we're into the 3rd year of our tenure, Navajo Nation Council, for the 24th Council. So I just want to say thank you to each and every one of you. I just want to say thank you to ADIC to have a day made to each and every one of the council the United indicate Mihiga Hadat Egon Hash Senator Gudash for Aronan Hikate and Lindy and Yol Kago. I just want to say thank you to them for their support. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that recognition, and thank you for recognizing that, Honorable Daniels. With that, moving on down, colleagues, any other recognitions this morning?
Delegate Rick Nez, request to speak, sir.
Yes, good morning, Chairman. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker Damon, honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, and out of staff, honest what I say, out of Nano Senegi, by Ketines, Saint Beniga Coron, Hashchina, our children that showed at San Juan County Fair, 4-H club members, man, our kids did so well. Very proud of our Navajo children raising livestock, and they did really well afterwards with the animal auction. A few businesses came out to buy from our children, and one of them was Navajo Agricultural Products Industry. They bought animals from our children. I was just very glad that they did, as well as Automax from Farmington. They really bought from our children. I mean, they raised some really good lambs, goats, pigs, and steers. And it was just a wonderful experience to watch our children raise these animals properly and win. And that was just really good for our children. Just want to recognize all the children out there that take care of their livestock. So and all the businesses that supported our Navajo children. So thank you very much. Thank you. God bless each and every one of you.
Thank you very much, Chairman Ness. That recognition. With that, colleagues, are there any other recognitions at this time?
Speaker Freeland.
Honorable Freeland, good morning. Floor is yours.
Good morning, Speaker. Audit colleagues, thank you for that prayer, and staff. Good morning, everyone listening on this call. I just wanted to give a recognition to all of our returning students who are returning to school as well. Those who are in the public school and those who are returning to college. I have a daughter that's going to be leaving for college, and it's going to be such a different transition having her so far away. So we pray for all of our students returning back to school. May they have a safe year. The teachers and the staff, the faculty, my aunts in Crown Point, Christine at Crown Point Elementary, my Aunt Carletta at Crown Point Community, my little sister, Linnea at Crown Point High School. They're all teachers in Crown Point. My son, who's an English teacher at Window Rock High School, Cody, and all the teachers who are working with our students this morning. We're very thankful, and we pray for their safety, and we pray for their continued guidance, and we are so thankful for what they are doing, as we try to get out of this pandemic. So we pray for the welfare, the safety, the staff, security, cooks, janitorial, bus drivers, everyone that is a part of our schools and the safety and care and well-being of our kids. We're thankful, and we appreciate them, and we appreciate everyone that's involved with all of our schools, especially those in McKinley County School District, Central Consolidated, Bloomfield, Cuba, but everyone, all on the school you get. So I just want to make that announcement, Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that recognition this morning, Honorable Freeland. That, colleagues, any other recognitions at this time? If there are no further recognitions, let's go ahead and continue on down. Item number 3 on our agenda this morning. Review and adopt the agenda. Mr. Rico, if you could read that into the record, and then we can go on from there. Mr. Rico.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. Naabik'íyáti Committee of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting via telecommunication, Winter Rock, Navajo Nation, Thursday, August 26, 2021. Proposed agenda. Presiding Chair, Honorable Seth Damon, Speaker, 24th Navajo Nation Council. 1, call meeting to order. Roll call invocation. 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. 3, review and adopt the agenda. 4, review and adopt the journals. There are 2 journals, August 12th, 2021, August 18th, 2021. 5, receive reports, none. 6, old business, none. 7, new business A, legislation 0169-21. 8, close of meeting, announcements, adjournment. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. That, colleagues, is there a motion?
G. Allen.
Honorable Keelan McGee, is there a second?
Second, hold.
Second by Honorable Helona. With that, colleagues, at this time, are there any recommendation changes, additions, deletions to our agenda today?
Mr. Chair.
Damon, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, I'll go to Madam Chair Charles Newton, and then I think I heard Honorable Herman Daniels after that. Madam Chair Charles Newton, floor is yours on our agenda, the main motion.
Oh, yeah, Chatilla, Speaker Damon, Auto colleagues, good morning. I would like to ask Speaker that we amend the agenda to add 0159-21 to the agenda and that we hear this legislation prior to the legislation 0169-21, Speaker. That is my motion at this time, Speaker.
Suck your you. Beat me.
That, colleagues, adding in 0159-21, which will become the new A under new business, is an action related to the Naabik'íyáti Committee approving amended and new appendices to the 2021 Arizona Gaming Compact is heading. Sponsored by Madam Chair Charles Liu and co-sponsored by Honorable Helona. That, I heard a second by Honorable Chairman Hino. That, colleagues, any comments, questions on amendment number 1?
Mr. Chair.
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Crotty.
I guess let me go to Honorable Herman Daniels, and then to Madam Chair Amber Crotty. Honorable Daniels, where's yours?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To the amending party, my brother, thank you for making the amendment. Like for modification to add legislation 0113-21 also. So it will be the execution, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Adding on under new business legislation 0113-21. 113-21 is an action related to the resource and development, budget and finance, and the Naabik'íyáti committees, and then ultimately to the Navajo Nation Council, appropriating $27,991,281 in CSN funds to the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority for the completion of 2,794 utility projects across the Navajo Nation, approving the NTUA 2794 project expenditure plan pursuant to 12 NNC subsection 2501 to 2508. With that, on 113-21, Madam Chair Charles Newton request to modify, to add that in on your motion.
I'm fine with that, Speaker.
Okay, with that, Chairman Hino.
Aviga.
You. That, moving on down.
Speaker,
Back
Delegate
to the main,
Daniel So.
back to amendment number 1, Chairman Daniel So. I put you in the queue.
Yeah.
That, Madam Chair, Bricati, floor is yours.
Sorry about that, Speaker, colleagues. Thank you. I appreciate the prayer, Shiaj. It was beautiful. I really needed that this confirmation this morning. Speaker, if I could ask the motioning party to amend, if we could, the action item for today's special Navajo Nation Council is by petition is for the audit, and the audit has a deadline. We have a deadline to regarding in our bondholders agreement that the audit will be completed by a certain date. So Speaker, if I could request then if we could create a consent agenda and add the legislation for the audit on that consent agenda, and seeing that there was no opposition to I'm sorry, I don't have the legislation number, but what Delegate Daniels added to the agenda, and then we could move forward on addressing the gaming compact. Thank you, Speaker. So we can move forward with our council session at 2:00. Thank you.
Madam Chair,
Speaker Damon, Speaker Smith, put me in the queue, please.
Madam Chair, Bricati, so are you? So on your consent agenda, let me understand this right. It would be legislation A0159-21, B0169-21, and C0113-21. All 3 items would be on a consent agenda. Is that what I'm understanding, Madam Chair?
Thank you, Speaker. I apologize to you, committee members and staff. I'm trying to pull up the legislation numbers. I cannot access the numbers right now, but what I can say was the legislation regarding the audit and the legislation that Delegate Daniels requested to be added to this agenda to be on the consent. Thank you, Speaker.
Okay.
I will get those numbers to you right now.
Okay, consent agenda. So that would be on the consent agenda then is legislation 0169-21, and that's referring to the accepting the audit report that was completed by Moss Adams. And that is 0169-21. And then legislation 0113-21, which is the legislation that's sponsored by Honorable Daniels referring to the CSN project legislation. So those 2 items you would like to have on a special consent agenda. That, let me go back to Madam Chair Charles Newton, request to modify.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm okay with the 0113-21 being a consent agenda, but I actually wanted to hear the report on the audit. So I would like to respectfully ask that we remove 0169-21 from the consent agenda. And the reason is at council, we only have 5 minutes to ask questions. I don't know at this point if I will have any questions. I was hoping that I could hear the report and generate questions from that. So Delegate Crotty, again, I don't mind 0113-21 being a consent agenda, but 0169-21, I may have questions.
Okay, that at this time, there's no consent agenda. Moving on that, back to the main motion, or back to amendment number 1. Chairman Daniel So, floor is yours on amendment 1.
Actually, Cecilia, the Senate members of the Naabik'íyáti committee, the Sigados Sidanas, the case and the Dinos Tangi, Bagi Sato, each Kadole. Speaker, I would like to add and again, I can't access the number, but basically supporting the tribal remedy framework. I'd like to ask legislative staff to provide that legislation number. It would be an action of the Naabik'íyáti committee.
65.
That would be my request to Chair, Honorable Chair Henio and Chiaza, Honorable Chair Charles Newton Fagisato, would ask that the agenda would be amended to include that particular legislation. Back to you, Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman Daniel. So with that, colleagues, let me go ahead and, what the legislation is 0165-21, sponsored by Chairman Daniel. So it's in action related to the Health, Education, and Human Services and Naabik'íyáti Committee, supporting the implementation of the Tribal Remedy Framework to address education transformation to meet the needs of Indigenous students attending the state of New Mexico public schools, supporting the reintroduction or similar versions of the New Mexico House bills titled the Native Language Education Unit, Yazi lawsuit, response fund, being Native American Library, Internet and Education, and Yazi lawsuit higher ed funding, supporting any future New Mexico House bills related to the tribal remedy framework in the future state legislative sessions. That, Madam Chair Charles Newton, is a request to modify, add 0165-21 into amendment number 1.
Ashabika, I'm good.
Okay, with that, Chairman Henio, for the second.
Yeah, should we go?
Good, thank you. That, moving on down. Vice Chair Smith, floor is yours.
Good morning, Speaker, Chair of the Naabik'íyáti, and good morning to all the Naabik'íyáti members, committee members, Ados and Nahas. Thank you for the prayer this morning. Junia. Speaker, I'd like to request from the motioning party to add on legislation 0160-21. Naabik'íyáti is the final authority. As a consent, it went through Health and Education Human Services. I appreciate that, Sito and Chair Henio. Thank you.
Hello? Speaker?
They're
Yes,
getting the information.
hold on, colleagues. So I'm just trying to verify that. It seems that according to our DIB review, it's saying that it's still sitting in the Health, Education, Human Services Committee. I'm just verifying that we have an actual committee report signed off by the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee that forward that legislation to the Naabik'íyáti Committee. So hold on, colleagues.
Speaker Kellen, put me in the queue.
With Keelan McGee, you are in the queue. You're next.
Speaker, this is Delegate Yellow here. Put me on too. Yeah, Speaker, this is Jimmy Yellow here.
Good morning, Honorable Yellow Hair. We'll add you in the queue. Thank you. Honorable Vice Chair Smith, at this time, we do not have a committee report that has been given to the Office of Legislative Services in order for them to go ahead and move forward. So I was recommending that to the Naabik'íyáti committee. At this time,
Thank you, Chair.
at this time, Vice Chair Smith, Office of Legislative Services will be looking into seeing if we can get that completed. If that is completed before the time is done, or before we go into our special session by 2 o'clock, I will turn the floor over to you and see if there's time to add that on the agenda. Vice Chair Smith.
I concur with that, Chair. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. That, colleagues, continue on down. Honorable Keon Begay, floor is yours on amendment number 1.
Speaker, Adolfo Anaslenigi, 24th Navajo Nation Council. Ado Kodoso, there's a negation of a non-native teacher. Shama Kodo, motion yen, Ni Hakito, Adosache, ye cases in the I'd like to ask 012421 to be added, maybe as a consent agenda with other qualifying legislation. 124 is simply requesting the Biden administration and Congress to continue to seek direct service for our veteran. That's just a simple legislation, and Nabi is the final authority. So, Speaker, that's my request. Adding legislation 124-21.
Pat, thank you very much. Honorable Keon Begay, an action related, the request is from Honorable Keon Begay. This legislation 0124-21 sponsor is Honorable Keon Begay, sorry. Madam Chair, this is an action related to Health, Education, and Human Services Naabik'íyáti Committee, reaffirming resolutions NABIN-69-18 and NABIMY-27-19, requesting the United States Congress and the Biden-Harris administration to establish direct services on the Navajo Nation for Navajo veterans. Madam Chair, Charles Newman, there's a request to modify to add that on.
I'm good with that, Speaker Biga.
Okay, thank you with that. Honorable Chairman Hino.
No,
Thank you. With that, colleagues, let me go ahead and continue on down. Honorable Jimmy Elhair, floor is yours.
Good morning. Shanata, 24 Councilman. I'd like to bring this to your attention to this legislation 0118-21. I think this legislation is very important. I'd like to request to a motion party, Shmayaja Adon Dasile, Honorable Hinio, Tito Pito Johnson, Haytwins, and motion party, Honorable Gina Charles Newton, Invocation. Thank you very much. Yeah,
Honorable Yellowhair, do you know what the subject is of legislation 0118-21? Because 0118-21 we approved at the last Naabik'íyáti committee, and it's been closed out.
Okay.
Are you talking about another legislation?
No, that is the same one. This pertains to shipwreck, the BIA. So if it's approved, thank you. That's all here. It's just the same one. Oh,
been approved.
I'll be
Thank you. With that, colleagues, we go back to the floor at this time. Is there any other comments, questions, additions, deletions on amendment number 1 or on our agenda for amendment number 1?
Auto
Or
so.
any discussing items on amendment 1? Honorable Otto So.
Yeah, Speaker. Auto did Bez Ani Bitahito. And I believe this legislation was, this session's to address the special session. Alcohol, one thing is, do we have enough time? Because we have a special session that's gonna start at 1 o'clock. Adon da shiklan tlahiya o bitahitzoho. Beto alcohol, I think we need to look at the time frame before we start just adding in resolution in there, because council in the legislation and especially some of these legislation that go through consent agenda. I didn't say anything about hatnika. Eba yashki. Alcohol yoban sokish and we have a time frame and even yeah, so
Thank you very much, Honorable Otto So, for that the comment and concern. Colleagues, the way it's broken down now is that this is the way the lineup is going to be on Amendment 1 if approved. Legislation 0159-21 will go first, then legislation 0169-21 would be item number B. Legislation 0113-21 would be item number C. Legislation 0165-21 will be item number D. And legislation 0124-21 will be item number E. That's 6 legislations. Right? 5? Oh, 5. Sorry.
Point of privilege, Speaker, Delegate Crotty.
This morning. That point of privilege, Madam Chair, Member Cardi, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. Could you, where's the audit at? 0169-21. What position is it on the agenda? That's what we need for council session. Thank you, Speaker.
The request to modify was held on the main, on Amendment 1's main motion by Madam Chair Charles Newton to move legislation 0159-21 to the first portion of business. So that's going to be the new A. Item number B is 0169-21, and that's referring to the audit, Madam Chair. Amber Cardi. That, colleagues, any other comments, questions at this time? There's
Speaker, this is Delegate Crotty.
Madam Chair, Member Cardi, the floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Speaker, and I appreciate the addition to the legislation. But I would ask the motioning party and the second to have legislation 0169-21, the audit, be the first order of business so that we can move through NABI and make sure it gets to council as the petition. Speaker, we need to be able to move on this legislation to hear it at council session. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much for that request. With that, let me go back to Madam Chair Charles Newton for a request to modify again.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, Delegate Crotty. So just for clarification, 0159-21, the state of Arizona is currently waiting on the Navajo Nation to approve the appendices, and we can't move forward with other parts of the compact until this has been approved. So today technically is the last day that we can approve this legislation. It was set on the previous NABI meeting, but we adjourned before we could address this legislation. So the state of Arizona right now is requesting that we vote on this legislation today so that they can move forward with completing the process of the compact. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're staying with the same lineup. All right.
Mr. Speaker,
So
that
Yes.
was also-
that, okay, thank you for that recognition. Let me go back to the floor then, colleagues. Is there any other comments or questions on amendment number 1?
Mr. Speaker, also.
On auto, so floor is yours.
Okay, since that is the case, can we go ahead and add the legislation 159-21 to the consent agenda? Let it go through because the appendix is gonna take a lengthy conversation. We are up against a timeline. When we adjourn for the council session, the resolution for Naabik'íyáti committee relating to 159-21 will be signed, and we can conduct the business of the audit, and we can hear the report there. So that is my suggestion, and I would like to make that proposal to move 159-21, the purpose of this session, to be added to the consent agenda.
Thank you very much, Honorable Otto. So, Honorable Otto, so at this time, there is no consent agenda. Would you like to motion to create a consent agenda?
Yes, I would like to motion to add on the 159-21, 165-21, and 124-21, all on consent agenda. Thank you.
Okay, with that,
Second, Monica.
colleagues. What?
Second, Monica.
Can't hear you, man. Okay, so your legislation 0159-21 is referring to the Arizona Gaming Compact. 165-21 is referring to the Chairman Daniel So's request for the Naabik'íyáti committee legislation to reaffirm the nation's positions on the educational remedial framework, tribal remedial framework. And then the last one, 124-21, is referring to asking about the federal administration to establish direct services to Navajo veterans. So those three, Honorable Chairman Otto So is requesting to add on as a consent agenda item number 1, Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Mr. Speaker, before you go back to Madam Chair,
Otto So.
is the consent agenda on the, or correction, is the budget on the consent agenda?
No.
Can you add that particular legislation to the consent agenda?
Wait. What budget?
Or correction, the audit, I'm sorry.
No, the audit is 0169-21.
Okay, 169-21 and the gaming legislation, I think that those are gonna have questions. We'll take that off. That way, the discussion can carry on, and if the timeline expires, it expires. So we'll take off 159-21. Thank you.
Honorable Otto So your recommendation for consent agenda is legislation 169-21, which is pertaining to the audit, 165-21, which is the tribal framework, and 124-21, which is the direct services for Navajo Nation veterans, correct?
Oh, yes.
That, Madam Chair, Charles Newton, request to modify.
Speaker, as stated earlier, I may have questions on 0169-21, the audit, so I don't agree to the 0169-21 being added to the consent agenda. However, I'm good with 0165-21 and 0124-21. Thank you, Speaker.
That request to modify to having the consent agenda items 165-21 and 124-21. Those will be the new item number A. If Chairman Henio concurs. Chairman Henio?
Yes, Abiga.
Okay. Colleagues, this
Question
is the
for
way the lineup is right now. If this amendment 1 goes forth, we are having legislation's item number A is a consent agenda items, which is 0165-21 and 0124-21. Item number B is 0159-21, referring to the gaming compact. Item number C is 0169-21, which is referring to the Navajo Nation audit. Item number D is 0113-21, referring to the CSN legislation request. That, back to the board. Any other further comments or questions on amendment number 1?
What a privilege. This is Delegate Slater.
Point of privilege.
Yes, this is Daniel.
Honorable Daniels, what is your?
Yes. I raise a point of privilege, or a question of privilege. If we do consent agenda and it moves forward to the council, are we able to make amendments at that time? Mr. Chair, thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Unless if you're talking.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Hey, Honorable Daniels, you can, if there's an item that's going to council, you can always approve an item here at Naabik'íyáti committee, send that to council, and then at council make those amendments too as well. But if there's an item here that's final authority at Naabik'íyáti committee, then it's final authority, and you approved it on the consent agenda, you approved it. So there's no way to change it.
Mr. Chair, this is Daniel.
Yes.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. To the motioning parties on the consent agenda, to check the delegate also consent agenda, grade 0113-21. At council, we can make some amendments, ADK. So I know we're about 3 hours behind the speak for Navajo Nation Council special session. So it include 113-21 to the consent agenda. Thank you.
With that, request to modify Madam Chair Charles Newton, adding in 0113-21 to the consent agenda.
I'm fine with that, Speaker.
That, Chairman Henio? Request to modify?
No, I have questions on 113-21.
Okay. That 0113-21 will stay off the consent agenda. That, moving on down, Honorable Slater. On
Speaker,
Amendment 1.
the purpose. Speaker, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, thank you. The reason that this NABI was convened, or I should say the special session this afternoon was convened for the purposes of considering the audit legislation, and it's going to take place in, 3 hours? I really think that in order to have a full presentation of the audit information to the full council and not just to the Budget and Finance Committee, we need to have that legislation first. Otherwise, we're going to get bogged down in the details of the gaming legislation, and the nation's financial picture should not be held hostage by that legislation. So I encourage my colleagues to vote red on this amendment because we need to consider 169. That was the purpose of this afternoon's special session and why most of us signed on to that meeting request. Thank you, Speaker.
That, colleagues, any other comments, questions on Amendment 1?
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Crotty on Amendment 1.
Yes, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, McCarty, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Speaker and staff. I'm viewing the amendment on the Zoom, and I think in terms of the request to add the amendment to the Arizona Gaming Compact, in light of this dire deadline for the Navajo Nation requirements for our bond, and to keep our financial fiduciary responsibility in order, I cannot support this amendment, and I would ask, as second motioning party, Chair Henyo, to reconsidering his support of this amendment in light that the audit and its findings have that deadline. It is a requirement of the Navajo Nation, and not moving forward or not having our full council fully invested in letting the public know in terms of what are some of those challenges or reoccurring audits, and especially knowing that we need an amendment. We've had an extension on this audit because of COVID, and that second deadline is coming to an end. And so I want to state for the record that I'm disappointed that our gaming enterprise will continue to lobby to put their needs in front of our mother government, the Navajo Nation, and make sure that we are in order with our financial house prior to their needs of amending a gaming compact, which last time was before this body was mentioned that we could not make amendments because it would kill the deal. And so I don't mind having that conversation, but I do find insult that we would add an amendment that would be before the Navajo Nation and her people to cater to an enterprise, which also is lobbying delegates on another legislation. So I'll be voting against this, but if we can move forward, I support all of the legislations that are on the consent agenda. I think they're in order, they're appropriate, but at this time at Naabik'íyáti, and seeing that there's an intentional, and this is intent to move forward with going to a gaming enterprise issue rather than the Navajo Nation. I would ask my colleagues on Budget and Finance to support and join this conversation on how important it is in this timeline to have the audit passed. Budget and Finance, we recessed so that we could have a special meeting yesterday to get some of the final updated information. There were still challenges, and the auditors were trying their best to finalize this agreement by the deadline. So there are amendments that need to be added, and we need to make sure that, and if Speaker, if your staff or if anyone is on the call that can let our colleagues know the timeline in terms of when this audit needs to be sent in, because we have to hold up our agreement to our bondholders in when they receive the audit. It impacts our bond rating, and it also can impact how we want to move forward with some of these projects when it comes to future investments in our community. So I think at this time, Speaker, that's my concern, because the council and the committee should have as much time as they need at Naabik'íyáti to answer the questions. At Budget and Finance, we had to go in executive session into a work session mode. That took a couple of hours. And then at yesterday's meeting, another presentation and update. And I believe for Budget and Finance, we did our part. And so we're asking our colleagues here at Naabik'íyáti to consider the audit first, so you have that time. You have full transparency because it does affect your oversight budget, and you'll see what are the reoccurring audit issues, how that impacts Navajo Nation, and what we can do to make sure that we're not reverting dollars, and making sure that some of these chronic programs are held accountable. So I want to thank my colleagues who have expressed similar concern, and I will look for that information to provide it to the committee in terms of what are our timelines, how we were granted this extension because of COVID, but the further amendments that need to take place and how we need to move as a committee, and then at 2 o'clock as a council to take action on this audit. It's very imperative, Speaker, that we meet those deadlines. So if you could provide some additional information in terms of what that deadline looks like, and the issues if we don't have that robust conversation to move it forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much for those comments. That I'm going to have to get the controller on the line to answer that question, or Mr. Willie, and then also get the somebody on from gaming too as well to see what the deadline is for the extension, or what is the amendment on the gaming compact too as well. With that, while we're getting those individuals on the line, I do have Honorable Otto So next in the queue.
Speaker, I'm going to ask the motion party again to add on the put back legislation, the audit legislation back onto the consent agenda. And then the questions can be asked at council, because we have to approve the audit in order to move forward with the budget process. And I would like to request to meet us in the middle ground. Just give there. That way, you know, we can address both legislations within this Naabik'íyáti committee. So I want to add on 169 and go ahead and move it forth, and the amendments and the questions can be asked at council. But right now, if it's off, I'm going to vote against this amendment here. So anyway, yeah.
Okay, thank you. So your request to modify is to move the legislation 0169-21 onto the consent agenda, correct, Honorable Otto So?
Oh, yes.
Chair Charles Newton, request again to move with 0169-21 onto the consent agenda. Yes, that's the audit.
No, I'm sorry. I've got questions that may be, based on the report. And if that means a vote, then so be it. Thank you, Speaker.
Speaker, this is Vice Chair Smith. Put me in the queue.
What is Rob? Is Rob on the line? Hold on, Mr. Vice Chair Smith. Is Mr. Willie or Madam Controller on the line?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'm on the line. This is Elizabeth Begay.
Yes, there was a question pertaining to
the bond?
The timeline on the deadline for the audit in order for us to be in compliance with our bondholders.
Yes, we are required to submit our financial statements by August 29th or August 30th, because it's Monday is the 30th. We already given a deadline of 60 days. It was initially due June 30th. So we need to submit that in order to be in compliance with our bond covenants. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, is there anybody on from gaming that would like to express the deadline for the gaming compact?
Mr. Speaker, this is Brian Parrish, sir.
Parrish, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. Honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, thank you for your time. The deadline is end of day today for being able to approve these appendices. This is part of the current compact and also associated with being able to move forward with sports betting. Sir, thank you.
Thank you. We go back to the board. Vice Chair Smith, floor is yours on amendment number 1.
Well, thank you, Chairman, and committee members of Naabik'íyáti. Purpose of this whole legislation and this special meeting today was specifically for the audit. Now we're adding more and more on, and we're excluding the importance of the Navajo Nation's dollars. I feel what Honorable Karate has said. She put it eloquently. She put it in perspective. I think we should focus in solely on the legislation regarding the audit. Without that, we cannot move the budget. Without that audit being approved by Naabik'íyáti and also Navajo Nation Council, we are going to be not able to have a comprehensive budget for FY 2022. So I plead with the committee of the Navajo Nation Naabik'íyáti to put that on first, because we need to do an amendment. Don't put it on a consent. If we put it on consent, we're just going to ramrod it through, and then when it comes to council, that's when questions are out, frustration sets in. I think we should just concentrate solely on the audit today. Then we could go and entertain gaming as a second. The consent issued, but we on the main issue of the audit for 2022 and also the petition that council has signed. We got enough signatures to conduct business at 2 p.m. And I need the support from Budget and Finance Committee to ensure, because we had a work session and I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions and things are going to be brought forth that Naabik'íyáti committee will be asking. That's the time to have those questions asked and also answered. And I have my agents with me that will be there. Thank you, Chair. I express deeply that we do not add more and we move forward and get this audit completed as of schedule. Yeah.
Speaker Damon, can you add me to the queue?
Oh, shoot. Yes, I can, Madam Chair. Thank you, Vice Chair Smith. With that, we go on down to, we do have Chairman Nez and then Madam Chair Charles. Chairman Nez, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Damon. Honorable members of the 24th Council, Shannon, I wish Bahasana Shahos Agi. Speaker, when can we reschedule another Naabik'íyáti meeting for the rest of the legislations? I don't think we need to have a consent agenda. I do agree with Shamayaja, Honorable Crotty, as well as Honorable Smith. I'm going to have to vote red on this amendment because today we're going to have to, and audits are very important. Things like that for fiscal year 2020. Even not your oho aftonans and hit our base or chon in Nasco. So I strongly believe that this afternoon we have 2 hours and 40 minutes left from now till special session. And the legislation, you know, but let's take care of this audit. Let's take care of the audit report. That is very important. But I can't support this amendment with all these legislations on here. Asaki koro Diego Naabik'íyáti. Beninan kita kidonagada chapters there. Hasta in hashita o consider agenda das edanan kita nedo don de jo Naabik'íyáti ko. Council session day 5 minutes. Nakanaho during Naabik'íyáti and Hindani Zinjin Yadel Tisa. The Quidishin Hade Zisa, Dore Gano Yadel Tisa. So it's Egon da Edel Kid Halan Hidanet is our people are listening when we're questioning this. We want to hold people accountable, and people want to hold us accountable too. They're listening to us. I can't support this amendment 1. I have to vote red. Let's just take care of the legislation 0169-21. That should take 2 hours and 40 minutes. And then we'll have the special council session. But Speaker, when can we have it as soon as we can, Naabik'íyáti, special Naabik'íyáti meeting? And I'd like to do away with the consent agenda. Thank you.
Is that a request to modify Chairman Des to sponsor Amendment 1 to get rid of the consent agenda? Well, never mind. You oppose the consent agenda? Chairman Des?
Yes, Speaker Damon,
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, there's no consent agenda then. So we're back to the original motion, which is 0159, 113, 164, 169, 113, 165, and 124. Okay. Thank you, colleagues. With that, we're back to original motion again, which is 159-21, 169-21, 113-21, 165-21, and 124-21. That, Madam Chair, Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. So just for clarification, colleagues, the purpose of adding in the gaming legislation, to be clear, it is not an amendment to the compact. It is simply just the approval of the appendices that defines a few of the terms that are found within the compact. The work has been done with getting the compact through. And so I think that clarification needs to happen. As far as the fiduciary duty that we have to the Navajo people, it is our fiduciary duty to follow through with the contract that we entered into with the state of Arizona. And so we did have this legislation on the agenda at the last Naabik'íyáti. However, there was a vote to be released early and it was never discussed. So what we were trying to do today was to try to get the appendices through for the state of Arizona to move forward with the compact. Again, it's just the appendices. And I'm sure that there are questions about it. I don't want to minimize, the appendices, but the compact has already been entered into with the Navajo Nation and the state of Arizona. The appendices were just to, again, clarify some of the terms within the compact that actually benefited Navajo and also Navajo people. As far as the compact and gaming, those are two separate issues. The Navajo people back in 2002 did lobby the state of Arizona to enter into a compact with the state of Arizona, as we do have with the state of New Mexico. It is a sovereign right of any tribe to enter into a compact with the state. The gaming issue is a separate issue. That is the casinos here on the Navajo Nation, and I think there needs to be a distinction made between both. The gaming enterprises do benefit from the compact. However, if the casinos were to go away tomorrow, the Navajo Nation would still benefit from the compact because we would still have machines in the metropolitan area that would generate revenue for the Navajo Nation. So I guess in terms of looking at this as like this is for the casinos, the casinos do benefit from the compact, but the Navajo Nation as a whole also benefits from the compact as well. So even if the casinos were to go away tomorrow, we would still benefit from the compact. So I think that distinction needs to be made. And as chairwoman for the gaming subcommittee, my responsibility was to see the compact through on behalf of the Navajo people. It was not on behalf of the gaming enterprise or the casinos here on the Navajo Nation. It was a compact that was entered into in 2002 that was sponsored by the Navajo people at that time, is my understanding. I was at ASU at the time when we saw all of those commercials coming out and how Navajo stood there along with other tribes in the state of Arizona to support the compact there in Arizona. So again, the purpose of the appendices today was to approve it so that we could move forward and define for the benefit of the Navajo people some of the terms and I guess also basically the terms within the compact. In the midst of hearing the discussions from delegates, I did text to see if we could get an extension, if that was something that could happen. I was informed that today was the last day to enter into this. Otherwise, I believe there are 10 licenses or maybe less than 10 licenses that are going to be issued to tribes to enter into sports betting. If the appendices are not approved today, Navajo doesn't receive a license. And so that I know it is that was part of the compact, was to include the sports betting. So that was the reason it was mentioned today. So I did contact Speaker Steve Hart, who is working, I think with but I know he has been working with the state to try to see if we can get an extension, because even previous to this conversation, we had been trying to work with the state of Arizona to get an extension on the appendices. And it looked like up until the last 2 minutes, the state is willing to give us an additional 2 weeks. But I will say that if the Navajo Nation does not approve the appendices, and again, that's just defining the terms of the compact, then the Navajo Nation would be missing out on another form of gaming, which would apply to all 22 tribes in the state of Arizona. So again, I will leave it to my colleagues to decide on whether we should proceed forward. I think that both matters right now are the fiduciary duty of this council. We obviously know that the audit is important, and that is the reason why we are having our council session this afternoon. But 0159, to be clear and to be frank, the 0159-21 actually was on the previous NABI. And had we not adjourned early that day, we could have had time to discuss this, the appendices to the compact. So I just wanted to make that clarification at this time, Speaker. So I think at this point, I will leave it to our lobbyists to get the extension, and we can remove the gaming appendices. But I will again make clear that if it's not approved, then the compact that we entered into the Navajo, I guess, people who did vote for gaming, it just wouldn't benefit the Navajo Nation as a whole. So I just want to make that clarification, Speaker, and to my colleagues. So with that, Speaker, I am going to remove my motion to add 0159-21 and I guess leave it to all of us to explain to the people what this actually means to the Navajo Nation as a whole. And with that, I'm going to assume that with my removal of the motion, it would also remove the motion for to add 0113-21, 0165-21, 124-21, and I think that was 165, 124, 169, and 113 with removing my motion, Speaker. So with that, again, I do apologize, colleagues, but I will be removing my motion to add the gaming appendices to this agenda. Thank you.
With that, Madam Chair, so you're withdrawing your whole motion. Okay. Madam Chair. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. That we have withdrawal amendment number 1. We continue on down. Chairman Hinyo. You want to continue, or you withdraw too as well?
Following the lead of Madam Chair Chongzin.
Thank you. Withdraw amendment number 1. That, colleagues, we're back on the main motion. Review and adopt the agenda. Any other comments or questions? Honorable Daniels.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I know there's no amendment at this time. There was a question that was asked by Chairman Nance. When can we have another special session? Not special, but special Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. With the budget calendar, thank you for that question again. With the budget calendar looking at us, we do have a possibility of having a special Naabik'íyáti committee meeting on next Friday, the 3rd, which will be just on the comprehensive budget, and on the 7th, if we don't get the completion, the whole comprehensive budget dropped from the Budget and Finance Committee in order to meet that requirement. So in order to do that, colleagues, what we can do is we can have a special Naabik'íyáti committee meeting as early as next Tuesday on the 31st. We would have to take a break. We would have to take a break between 11 and 2 o'clock to get information from presentation at that time, and that would probably just we would probably start after 2 o'clock, actually, colleagues, because 11 to 2 is a presentation for our new BIA director, regional director. So next week, and then after that is our regular session on the 9th. And that was the reason why, colleagues, there was no push for any of these. So they were all going to be put on the 9th, September 9th, because there's no special Navajo Nation Council session in that. And the budget session was going to take precedence over that. So there wasn't going to be anything produced further than that, either on the 16th or the 23rd was going to be a special Naabik'íyáti committee meeting because there's no Navajo Nation Council session requested for any future documents except for the audit, which is today. Honorable Daniels, I hope I answered your question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, just like what Shamakodo, Charles Newton, legislation 0113 was on the Naabik'íyáti agenda last week. We didn't get to the agenda. It was adjourned date. So after hearing from my brother, Delegate Chairman Ned, I'll just go ahead and wait until the next special Naabik'íyáti to add legislation 0113. The reason why I say this is because it's going to take more than an hour, maybe over 2 hours, because we have amendments included in that, added onto that legislation. Mr. Chair, thank you very much.
Thank you. With that, colleagues, moving forward, any other comments, questions on our agenda?
Hello, this is Delegate Yell here, Speaker.
Yes, on wheel here on our main motion on our agenda.
Okay, this 24 councilman out of Speaker Doda. It's not like Doda. Hey, 35 minutes waited is yeah. Over the height, so I couldn't tell today. Now, take quaggy. Shmaya's Honorable Gina Charles Newton had this 0159-210 legislation number. That is very important. Should not Kliniki. The appendice had no on the adult nickel. It actually so Dojana the kid. It obeyed not the color. Lady Hunt 10 other tribe. They also they're gonna support it. This appendice, Craigie. Yeah, our subject thoughts on some the not. We should vote on it. As is that's my motion. Just the two legislation can be heard, audit, and then this legislation 159-21. It is subject thoughts not only. Yeah, I think but not the other tribe. We need to move on with this one here so we can meet this the new approval from your respective Navajo Nation Council, 24 councilmen. Let's vote on it. On the article at least we do something to take care of two things besides the audit and then this one here, 01592. It is beyond. That's my motion. Leave this on to hear this one immediately. It owns not the kid. And once about how the speaker, let's have the two subjects. You hear this on the agenda. That's my motion. Keep the legislation 059-21. That's my motion now, Speaker.
With that, motion by Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair to add on legislation 0159-21 after the audit legislation 0169-21. 0159-21, again, colleagues, is an action related to the Naabik'íyáti Committee approving, amending, and new appendices to the 2021 Arizona Gaming Compact. Is there a second?
Second, that was a Paul Begay.
Honorable Paul Begay. Colleagues, any comments or questions on amendment number 1?
Speaker Damon, twice the Delegate Rick Nez request to speak, sir.
What, Honorable Chairman Nez, floor is yours.
Honorable Speaker Damon, honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. My concern to begin with was that we were adding too many legislations, but if we could just go directly, I don't know in what order we're going to have these legislations, but if we could just approve the gaming legislation, if it's prepared and no amendments, we should just do that. because after listening to my sister, Charles Newton, I believe that is very important as well. And I apologize, but I just now seeing that we're running out of time. So if we could just do that, that would be great. If we could just pass that and concentrate on the audit as well. Thank you.
Hey, thank you. That, we are in amendment number 1. Any other comments, questions, colleagues?
Question of privilege. This is Daniel.
Well, Daniel's question of privilege.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I got kicked off there. What's the amendment?
To add on legislation 0159-21, motion by Chairman, or by Honorable Yellow Hair, second by Honorable Paul Begay. It's a gaming compact appendices amendment.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Any other comments, questions on amendment number 1? Going twice. Going 3 times. Malona.
Thank you, Chair, for your recognition. Listen, my colleagues, we're just going round and round in circles again. We always do this. We need to go ahead and make a decision. Decisions that we need to make right now are clear cut. They're not really anything the only thing that we're really going to have trouble with is the audit. The other amendment, the other legislations are pretty much clear cut. I asked my colleagues here, let's just move forward right now with this legislation. Let's get this amendment done. We've already wasted an hour. We could waste another hour talking about it and not get anything done. So I'm asking my colleagues, let's stop right now, vote on this amendment. We need to get this compact done, and then it's a no-brainer. It's an action that needs to be taken care of. We already went through all the compact agreements. We already voted it all. So I'm asking my colleagues, let's stop now. Let's vote on this right now and move forward. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. That, colleagues, any other comments, questions on amendment number 1? I'm going twice.
This is Vice Chair Smith, Speaker.
Vice Chair Smith on amendment number 1.
Thank you, on amendment 1, the first question is it going to be item A, as Honorable Yellow Hair has made a motion and a second? If so, I'm concerned about the fact that it's going to take some time to get this going, but we need an audit here to get done. So that's my question. Thank you.
Honorable Yellow Hair didn't make it item number A. He just added it on, Vice Chair Smith. So the lineup would be legislation 0169-21, then legislation 0159-21. That's the way it's lined up right now. Okay, colleagues, any other comments, questions? Going twice on amendment number 1. Going 3 times. Second reading, so I can clarify.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, you have one amendment. Amendment number 1 is to add legislation 0159-21 to the agenda. Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Elmer Begay,
I'll vote
Honorable
green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.,
Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay,
Green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown, Honorable Nathaniel Brown,
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton,
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canes Bakrati,
Shadow Delegate Amber Keenan Bakrati, and I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canes Bakrati votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland,
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona,
Alona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo,
It votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James,
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez,
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater,
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.,
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So, Honorable Daniel So,
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Otto So, Honorable Otto So,
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Wanika,
Green.
Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazzie,
Green.
Honorable Edwin Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair,
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up, Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Charlene So, Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr., Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.,
I vote green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Speaker, you have 21 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting.
Thank you. With that, colleagues, 21 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting, motion carries. That, let me go back to our main motion on our agenda. Any other comments, questions, colleagues?
Speaker Damon, this is Delegate Claudia.
Yes, Madam Chair, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I just want to, I was going to call a point of order, but I think Delegate Halona's comments regarding the amendments is a no-brainer and we're wasting time. I have not received the report from the gaming appendices. I have no documentation that a special Naabik'íyáti was requested to go over and approve that legislation. I have no documentation that there was a request to come together earlier today at 8 o'clock so that we could address other legislations that have a deadline. And so I think in terms of making this comment, it's this body in this agenda, the focus is the audit. Now, if the gaming compact and the compact needs adjustment, then those delegates who are responsible to move that forward have the obligation to make sure that those items are taken care of. Because asking myself as a delegate to not move forward with the audit, I find that very problematic. And so that's my comment. And I think there's been actions done by the delegate, which we would consider no-brainer indeed, and has put a mark on this council and has not been properly addressed. Thank you, Speaker and my colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for your comments, and thank you, colleagues. So recognitions, we are on amendment number, or actually on the main motion, and taking into consideration, I know that today's, just for clarity, today's was a special meeting specifically for the audit to get completed, and that was given this direction to the Office of the Speaker. As in moving forward, though, we approved legislation 0159-21 to be on the agenda, so that's where we're at right now. And in doing that, in the delegation of time, we do have a little over 2 hours, 2 hours and about 4 minutes to conclude, to conduct a Naabik'íyáti committee meeting. At this time, colleagues, are there any other comments or questions on the agenda? We do have one approved amendment, and if there are none, we can go ahead and move to a final vote on adopting our agenda, and then go into the first legislation. If there are not, going twice. They're not going 3 times. That second reading, Mr. Rico.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the 24th Nomination Council, Naabik'íyáti Committee. There is one amendment. Amendment number 1 is to add legislation 0159-21 to the agenda, which will be new item B. Thank you.
Let's go ahead and take roll call vote.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay.
green.
Honorable
vote
Elmer
green.
Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. did not vote. Honorable Paul Begay
votes green.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown. Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canaz-Bakrati.
Shada, this is Delegate Amber Canaz-Bakrati, and I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canaz-Bakrati votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Hindu votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater votes green via text. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So votes green via text. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Otto So.
Vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edwin Yazzie.
Green.
Honorable Edwin Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy
Delegate
Yellowhair.
Delegate Yellowhair votes green.
Honorable
Thank you.
Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Speaker, you have 20 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting.
Thank you. With that, colleagues, 20 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. We do have an agenda before us, so let's continue on down to our next item under our agenda, review and adopt the journals. Colleagues, there are 2 journals, one on August 12th and one on August 18th, 2021. These were sent out Monday at 3:20 p.m.
Motion.
Will of the committee is a motion by, is that you, Chairman Yazzie?
Yes, sir, Speaker. Good morning, good afternoon.
Oh, good afternoon. Motion by Chairman Yazzie to accept the report, second by Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. That, colleagues, any comments, questions? There's none. Let's go ahead and vote on to accept our journals on August 12th and August 18th, 2021.
Honorable Almer Begay. Honorable Almer Begay.
I vote green.
Honorable Almer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay. Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canasva Prati. Honorable Amber Canasva Prati. Honorable Amber Canasva Prati did not vote. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. did not vote. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona did not vote. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Henyo votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater. Honorable Carl Slater votes green via text. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Eugene So did not vote. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr.
Thomas Walker votes green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika. Honorable Edison Wanika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi. Honorable Edmund Yazi did not vote.
I vote green.
Honorable Edmund Yazi votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty.
Shada, this is Delegate Amber Kenneth-Bacardi, and I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. did not vote. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So is excused. Speaker, you have 19 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting.
Thank you very much. With that, colleagues, 19 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. Let's continue on down. Item number 5 is receiving reports. We don't have none, or there are none at this time. Item number 6, old business, there are none. No items under old business. Item number 7, we are under new business, colleagues. And item number A is legislation 0169-21. With that, it's sponsored by Honorable Vice Chair Smith. That, let me go to Mr. Rico to read it into the record, and then we'll go to the floor.
Thank you, Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Tracking number 0169-21, an action relating to the Budget and Finance and Naabik'íyáti Committees and Navajo Nation Council accepting the audit report of Moss Adams on the basic financial statements of the Navajo Nation for fiscal year 2020. Sponsored by Honorable Vice Chairman Raymond Smith Jr. There is a committee report from the Budget and Finance Committee dated August 25th, 2021, with the recommendation that it do pass without amendment and refer to the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Navajo Nation Council is final authority. Mr. Speaker.
That colleagues, is there a motion?
Delegate Rick Nez.
Jimenez,
Yellow hair second.
second by Honorable
Yellow.
Jimmy Yellow here. That colleagues. Let me go ahead and go to Vice Chair Smith. Vice Chair Smith, you have 20 minutes on the board.
Thank you, Speaker and Navajo Nation Council of Naabik'íyáti Committee. Thank you for the motion on this legislation. Chiche Asa for motioning and seconding of this important legislation that's in front of us. It is a annual audit. Annual audit is required according to the Appropriations Act. We cannot move forward unless we adopt this through Naabik'íyáti. We had passed this yesterday at the Navajo Nation Budget and Finance, and now it's here in front of the Naabik'íyáti legislation 169-21, which is a Moss Adam audit on the Navajo Nation financials. The deliberation is important that the Navajo Nation Council of the proposed comprehensive budget. This is what we need to do prior to our comprehensive budget, which we've been working very, very hard. And I appreciate all departments, divisions, executive, judicial, and legislative on behalf of providing their input and being on call for the budget to go forth through the Navajo Nation Council. This is one step and one procedure. We're going to be accepting the audit report of Moss Adams on the basic financial statements for the FY 2020. However, it is, yes, kind of at the last minute, but at this point in time, we are here to entertain this legislation. And I do have my agents with me. I have Acting Controller Elizabeth Begay and also Mr. Robert Willie this morning here with me on the call. And also there is the Moss Adams, Tasha and Ryan Lukemeyer for the purposes of answering any questions regarding the audit. Committee members, this is a final report that's going to be inserted. We don't have the final report. Budget and Finance had a final, was waiting for the final report, but since we didn't do a consent, we can entertain a, what they call it, amendment. And I know that the amendment is important. And once we get the amendment put on, that we can move forward to the Navajo Nation Council, which will be at 2 p.m. So at this point in time, committee members of the Navajo Nation, I'm sure there's a lot of questions and a lot of answers that will be provided in depth. And I'm glad that we didn't do a consent, because when we do a consent, it gets to the Navajo Nation Council, and then there's time limits, and we run out of time, and certain questions that were posed or were in line may not be answered in that time frame. So with that, committee members, the Navajo Nation has utilized the independent auditor report of Moss Adam, and it's in Exhibit A, which is lengthy. And we had a work session with the Budget and Finance Committee, and Budget and Finance Committee had a work session regarding the audit. There is several audit findings, and I won't elaborate on that at this point in time, but I just want to open the stage on behalf of the FY 2020 audit conducted by Moss Adams. Like I said earlier, I do have my agents here, so I'd like to turn the floor over to Acting Controller Elizabeth Begay, and also Robert Willie, and then also Moss Adams, before we turn the floor back over to you, Chairman Damon of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Ms. Begay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair Smith, for sponsoring this legislation. And thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. My name is Elizabeth Begay, and I'm the acting controller. Also, as Vice Chair Smith stated, here with me is also Robert Willie, our accounting manager, as well as Moss Adams, auditor. And we are here to present the fiscal year 2020 external audit of the combined financial statements of the Navajo Nation. And we are mandated to present this audit to this committee and move on to the Navajo Nation Council as mandated by the Appropriations Act prior to the Navajo Nation Council deliberation of the proposed FY 2022 comprehensive budget. And of course, in order for us to comply with our bondholders' requirements, we need to present our financial statement audit, and as well as to be in compliance with our external reporting. And I would like to transfer the floor to our Moss Adams auditors, Tasha Rep and Ryan Luke-Mayer. Go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker Damon and delegates. As was indicated, we are here to present the final financial statements for the nation's audit for the year ended September 30, 2020. And those statements are dated, our audit report is dated August 24th. The final bound copies were delivered to the nation yesterday in electronic format. We have two parts to the audit that we perform every year. The first part of our audit is to provide opinion on the financial statements of the nation as a whole. I am happy to report that our opinion on the financial statements is an unmodified or clean opinion, which means that based on the audit procedures we performed, that we believe the financial statements are materially correct and presented in accordance with the nation's financial accounting framework, which is the Navajo Nation modified accrual budget basis of accounting. Materiality does indicate that we do not test every transaction. Something that is material to the financial statements is not going to cover 100% of the transactions of the nation, but we do perform assessments of internal controls. We select a lot of samples and we perform a lot of substantive testing of the balances included in the nation's financial statements. We also are required to perform an audit under the Single Audit Act and Uniform Guidance, which requires that the nation have an audit performed of certain of their federal grants and contracts that they expended throughout the year. Those reports, there are two reports that get issued relative to that piece of our audit. One is a report required under government auditing standards, which focuses on internal controls over financial reporting of the financial statements as a whole, and a second report under uniform guidance, which is required to describe the procedures we performed over the individual grants that were selected as major programs for audit this year. I'm going to turn it over to my colleague Ryan Lukemeyer to briefly go over the results of the single audit and our findings that we reported relative to those procedures.
Thank you, Tasha, and thank you, honorable speaker and delegates. My name is Ryan Lukemeyer, and appreciate this time to discuss the result of the nation's single audit. We did, as part of the federal rules regarding how these audits are conducted, we did select 15 of the what is referred to as major programs of the nation, and we performed specific audit procedures in accordance with the Single Audit Act on those programs. As a result, we did have 9 findings that we have reported in the package of the audit, and I will briefly go through those 9 findings. The first 2 are really internal control related findings that cover the nation as a whole. The first finding. The first finding. Oh, sorry.
Hold on. Was there a question of privilege?
Yes, Speaker, it's the Delegate Charles Newton.
Yes, Madam Chair. Please hold on, team members from Los Angeles. Madam Chair?
Yes, Speaker, I apologize, Mr. Minder, for interrupting you, but can you point out for me on the legislation what page you're going to be covering, just for clarification? Thank you.
Sure.
Go ahead.
So I'm on page 83 of the financial statement draft that's included in the legislation. You is that? I want to make sure that everybody's at that page. Let me know if I can continue. Page 80.
Speaker Damon, referring to your page 83, there's no such page at 83. The highest it goes is 74.
All right, let me pull up the legislation package right now here. Give me one moment. Okay, I got it right here. It's page on the package. On the package, it's page 77 of 93 is where I'm starting.
Yeah, 77.
If that's suitable, if everybody's at the same page, I can go ahead and continue. Is that okay?
Speaker, I'm sorry, question and privilege?
Yes, go ahead, Madam Chair.
Speaker, okay, so it looks like per the package that I have, it does go up to page 74, and then it goes to the Navajo Nation schedule of findings and question costs, and it starts at page 9. I don't know if I'm the only one that has this packet, Speaker, but if I could just follow along with the pages on page 10. Okay, page 10. Okay. Thank you, Speaker. I guess my other question, Speaker, is the document that I'm looking at starts at page 9. What happened to the first 8 pages? Thank you.
There's a question. Yes. Is there pages 1 through 8? We're looking at the original one that was given to us, and there's nothing attached. Anybody from Los Adams or Vice Chair Smith?
Yes, this is Tasha from Moss Adams. I believe I can answer that question.
Okay, go ahead.
The initial legislation included the final draft of the financial statements, awaiting a few pieces of information that we needed to finalize the audit. As I indicated, the audit was finalized on the 24th and was provided to the nation yesterday. So the draft financial statements, we are not allowed to share the draft of the audit opinion. And so it included only the nation's financial statements and the schedule of findings and question costs. The final version that was provided to the nation yesterday includes the reports. Those reports are what would have been included on those pages 1 through 8.
You have a copy of that so we can send that out to members of the Naabik'íyáti committee that you can share with?
We provided that information yesterday to OOC.
Willie on the line? Looks like we just got an email, colleagues, from Mr. Willie. And Mr. Rico is going to send that out. Did you get it? It's a big file, colleagues, so it might take some time to get to you.
Speaker, point of privilege.
Yes, Madam Chair, Charles Newton, point of privilege.
Thank you, Speaker. I did call a point of privilege because per Rule 16, I know that this is in the Council Rules of Order. I'm guessing that the point of privilege actually does apply to Naabik'íyáti as well, since we have used this point throughout Council in the last 3 years. But I do want to point out that Rule 16B does talk about maintaining the dignity and the integrity of the proceedings. And so my question to you, Speaker, is as one delegate, I don't mind going through the 9 findings that are located on page 10. However, I do have to raise some concern over the pages that are missing, and how, we could have voted on this as a consent agenda without the actual documents attached to the legislation, which would have probably put us in violation. So I'm a little bit concerned as the documents are being sent out. Do we need to make an amendment to this legislation to include the missing documents on this legislation so that it is a complete audit and available for the people, Speaker. Thank you.
Madam Chair, in the presentation, from what I'm understanding, is that this is a draft document, and according to the representatives from Los Adams, they indicated that this is a draft document and the final document wasn't received to them until this past yesterday. So that document is the final concluding document. So this legislation had to go through the 5-day comment period. So that's the reason why I'm assuming the draft document was attached to it. So according to back channel over here, there's from Mr. Willie's working together with Chief of Staff, is that there's going to be needing an amendment, and that amendment is an amendment of the whole Exhibit A, the whole Exhibit A, which is the whole financial statements. And I think that what was sent out to just now does include that initiative. So that's something that's going to potentially be needed to be adopted as an amendment, either here at NABI or at council. Just to add, for clarity, I hope I'm talking. That's what I'm assuming. I'm not too sure. I called from Mr. Willie, but no one has responded online. Or Madam Controller, I guess now.
Okay, is it on it? Mr. Chair, Robert Willie here, Accounting Manager for the record.
Yes.
I did send the final version of the audit to Ms. Chief of Staff. I also included Dana on it. I'm not sure if we have a sponsor, but that version I sent is the final version of the audit, which includes all of the audit findings, which Moss Adams is currently trying to go through. So we just need that amendment, and that's what Mr. Lukemeyer is actually trying to present right now, also as far as the audit findings, because I guess that was the question. So if you need any more clarification, I can provide more. But it was indicated by Delegate Smith and Brian Lukemeyer that the final version would need to be added to the legislation for consideration. Thank you.
So at this time, what was sent to you, Madam Chair Charles Newton, and the rest of the Naabik'íyáti committee from Mr. Rico is the final document, correct? And that's the one that's going to be needed to be amended. But in that final document, it seems that that's where you'll find those pages. With that, there's no more comments.
Point of order.
Point of order by Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. So I raised this point of order because I think that this is an error that was made. I don't know the way that I'm looking at this legislation, and I know that it is important for the Navajo Nation, but we just, as council, we allowed a legislation to go through the process, the 5-day comment period that allows the public to view the legislation and to see the exhibits that are attached. But the legislation, technically, the exhibits were not complete, Speaker. And so we presented to the public an incomplete exhibit. And I know that we have done this before and we've made amendments on the floor. However, I think that it would be inappropriate for us to discuss the full gamut of the audit if all of the documents that we received as council hasn't been, if there hasn't been a motion to replace the exhibit so that we can ask questions regarding the entire document, Speaker. I hope that I'm making sense with the missing pages. I don't know what's on those missing pages. And so I don't know if as a delegate, I'm going to have questions pertaining to the information that's on those missing pages. And I think that when we're talking about the people, their money and the audit that has been done on the Navajo Nation, we need to be honest and we need to show them that a complete audit has been completed and that council is considering the full audit at this time and not any missing documents. Again, Speaker, I hope that I'm not out of order in making this request, but I feel that if there are missing documents right now, those need to be acted on to include it so that we can have that discussion here at Naabik'íyáti. Thank you, Speaker.
Madam Chair, at this time, the way the legislation is presented and the way the legislation is being presented is on behalf of Vice Chair Smith as the sponsor of this legislation. So if there's any further questions at the time when it comes back to it, when he's done with his presentation, that at that time, if there's a need to be raised, and at some point there will be need to raise an amendment at that time, then those other further questions can be answered. But per the recommendation of what individuals, and keep in mind, Vice Chair Smith, if you're going over documents that are not accessible to you or your the presenters that are presenting with you, in this case, Moss Adams, are going over documents that are not, have not been presented or are not in the legislation, it does cause confusion. So in that, for the question then that's raised, just go over the legislation per the legislation that's at hand before us. If there needs to be recommendations for an amendment, at that time, that's when those recommendations can be explained. Let me go to Ms. Barbroff to help explain more too as well. Ms. Barbroff? Ms. Barbroff? Phone might be muted.
Thank you, Speaker. Maybe I have it figured out.
Yes.
Those mute buttons are challenging for me. So good morning. I'm going to see if I can put some of this into context so that we can move on some. So if you will look at page 2 of the resolution, page 2, line 2, and read those final sentence. The 2020 financial statements are attached as Exhibit A in draft form and will be augmented by the 2020 Independent Auditor's Report when finalized. So what you have right now attached to the legislation are the financial statements in draft form. The auditor's report is not included in that Exhibit A because it cannot be released in draft form. It's now finalized. So you are in the presentation section of your legislation. So when this is over, I do have an amendment ready to go that will replace Exhibit A, and that Exhibit A will be replaced with what Mr. Willie sent out this morning, and I believe Mr. Rico forwarded to you just a little bit later. Thank you, Speaker. I hope that helps a little bit.
Thank you with that, Ms. Barbroff. Let me go ahead and go back to the floor then. Mr. Smith, Vice Chair Smith, you and your presenters are more than welcome to continue on your presentation.
Thank you, Speaker, Naabik'íyáti committee members.
Vice Chair Smith, we can't hear you.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you, Speaker. Back to what I was saying, I was unfortunately muted. Yes, we do have a draft audit, and thank you, Chief Legislative Counsel, for bringing that forth on the language in the legislation. And this is just a introduction of the legislation that's set forth in front of us, 169-21. And Moss Adams is presenting their presentation for this legislation. So I'd like to continue with Moss Adams. Speaker, with a little guidance, could we just have the opening statement regarding what we have currently, not going into what we don't have, adopted as what we need to do on the amendment? I know that BNF was waiting for it and wanted to do a amendment, but due to time constraints and the time of when that complete audit was finalized, we moved it ahead, and this is where we're at. So, Speaker, back to you on that. I just want a little guidance on that, so we don't open a whole new can of worms without having the right documents in front of us. Speaker?
At this time, it's up to you it's your presentation, Vice Chair Smith, and the recommendation was to go over the documents that were presented to Naabik'íyáti Committee, and that's the draft documents. And at the recommendation, when it does come up, when there is an amendment, then you can clarify those items that were not in the draft document and moving forward.
Thank you, Speaker, for that. Back to my agents. Agents, would you please just continue on with what was provided in behalf of the Budget and Finance? Any other new documents that may be presented, we can talk about that when the legislation has.
Point of orders, Speaker. This is Delegate Yellow here.
Honorable Yellow Hair, point of order. What was yours?
Speaker and 24th Navajo Nation Council. This audit report is very important. If they're lacking documents, I think we should just wait until everything documents all and piled up. And my recommendation, we should just move on to a gaming. We should just move on to the next legislation. We're not ready yet on this audit report, and they should be ready. The documents should be all ready, because the documents in the audit report is very important to the nation. But then, we can come back to this audit. We should just go to legislation on the 0159-21. That's my motion. Audit the bandi. Auditor and Lenika Moss Adam. Can we do that if I'm the right order, Speaker?
Thank you, Honorable Yellow Hair. Honorable Yellow Hair, we already have a motion on the table. And your motion can't supersede that motion. So at this time, Honorable Yellow Hair, we do have the documents. It's ready for to be amended. So when the presentation is completed, if that's the first order of business that the committee wants to do, is address that and swap out Exhibit A for a new Exhibit A, which is the final audit, then that can happen. But at this time, you can't make a motion. One, there's already a motion on the table. It's two, can't make a motion from a point of order on Yellow Hair. Thank you. With that, back to you, Vice Chair Smith.
Thank you, Speaker, and Navajo Naabik'íyáti committee members. Good morning. I'd like to just go ahead and close out the presentation on the legislation that's set forth here so that we can move into business. We do have the documents, and I think that's what's going to be providing the foundation once we get the audit, the final one. We only have the draft. So at this point in time, Speaker, as the sponsor of this legislation, I'd like to go ahead and defer my time and go into the questioning and also into the fact that we need to do an amendment on this legislation. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you very much. That, we'll go to the floor. Colleagues, is there any comments, questions? I don't have anybody in the queue at this time.
Kealan.
McKeon Begay, then Matt.
Chairman, are we saying that we
Hold
just
on.
included-
Hold on. There might be a point of order or question of privilege.
Speaker, yes, my point of order is I did technically have a question on the floor regarding the findings that was getting ready to be prepared when I noticed that there was missing documents. So are we going to make a motion to amend first to get all of the documents and then we move to a question? Or are we just going to proceed forward without my questions being answered or without the findings being discussed, Speaker? Thank you.
The answer to your question is that when Dana presented I thought that was a response to say that one, or even when I responded, Madam Chair, is that at this time, what is presented is what is up to the presenter. And at this time, the presenter is wanting to close out the presentation and go to the floor. And his recommendation then is to go to immediately go to an amendment to amend and swap out Exhibit A. So when you swap out Exhibit A, you won't have the draft, you'll have the actual completed audit for the Navajo Nation's 2020 for September of 2020, 30th of 2020. So when that's completed, now I'm going to the board, and I don't know if Honorable Keon Begay is going to do that or yourself. You're up next in the queue, but I'm going to Honorable Keon Begay first and then see if there's any questions. From that point, if there's an amendment that's going to take place at that time, that's when, if there's any clarity or any understanding that the presenters want to act on to present any further information that will be coming from the amendment. At that time, that's when those answers can go to the amending party, which will hold the amendment, which will eventually be answered by Moss Adams in the end. So with that, Honorable Keon Begay, floor is yours.
Chairman, I may transform my statement into a point of order, but I mean, we just got ahead of ourselves. We need a complete, concise, clear presentation of the audit. And I'm sure there's reason, and we'll get to them. I mean, this is a legislation where we can add amendments and talk about them as we go. To my understanding, I sure like to know who the firm is. Maybe a formal introduction would be appropriate. And then, yes, this is the first time that they're doing an audit to the Navajo Nation. How and what they've seen and how they perform is what I like to hear from them. Speaker, if I could request the presenter to go back to the auditor, the the firm and do a concise, clear presentation to the council, and then we can start asking questions after. Akoko epe nachiko kodo nan yad lindiki adonal sos lindiki e kodon da etikito bahna eti kitiki hatol jish. Take all of our questions and answers could be presented during their presentation. Koko la bahna etish kitiki hodno. So if I could ask speaker again, like I said, I may transform my question, my statement, or my time into a point of order, that we need to have the presenter complete their presentation as much time as they need. I mean, we have up to 2 o'clock to do this. Speaker, that's my a request to the presenter and the auditor firms. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Keelan-Begay. At this time, Honorable Keelan-Begay, was up to the presenter to have 20 minutes to present. The presenter yelled back to the floor, said that he was completed with his presentation. So that's where we're at, Honorable Keelan-Begay. And I'll come back to the presenter if those questions are asked. And it seems like you do have some questions. So when I come back to the presenter, the Honorable Vice Chair Smith in this case can, him and his individuals, him or his agents can answer those questions at that time. That, moving on down, Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Speaker, I guess in this case, if I'm being recognized to speak, I would like to make a motion at this time to include the full audit that has been sent to us and to replace the documents within the legislation so that we can have a full discussion about the audit and the future of the Navajo Nation. Thank you, Speaker.
You believe Ms. Barbroff indicated that that was ready. Mr. Rico, if you want to go ahead and read that into the record. So, Mr. Rico, could you read that into the record?
Thank you, Speaker, and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee.
Point of order, Speaker. This is Delegate Crotty.
Yes, point of order, Madam Chair Ambacati, what is your point of order?
Yes, thank you, Speaker. So I requested an amendment to replace Exhibit A with the updated financial document. Can I receive a copy of the amendment that Delegate Charles is requesting? Thank you, Speaker.
That is being sent out right now.
Speaker, I'd like to know if there's any conflicting language, if I could get advice from Legislative Council so that we don't have two conflicting amendments. Thank you, Speaker.
Speaker, this is
Let me go back, Ms. Barbara.
Council. If thank you, Speaker. This is Ms. Bobroff. The amendment I sent out, which is the one I believe you're talking about right now, that replaces Exhibit A with the updated documents, and it deletes certain verbiage in the legislation that indicated it was a draft. It was in draft form. After you do the, and the reason is after you replace the Exhibit A, it's no longer in draft form. That's why the removal of the language. I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Rico.
Speaker,
point of order.
Honorable Keelan-Begay, point of order. Floor is yours.
Speaker, point of order. I like to hear directly from the firm before we move or do anything. Can we go and have the firm complete the report? What's the purpose of starting anything on our own, knowing that we need to get some information from the person or the firm that compiled this particular document? Let the report be completed, and then we can start doing all these amendments and other areas that needs to be done. Speaker, that's my point of order. I want to hear directly from the auditor of the firm that compiled this particular document that's before us. That's my point of order.
Honorable Keon, thank you for your point of order. As indicated, Honorable Keon, there was time for the presenter to present to the council, or in this case, to the Naabik'íyáti committee. At that time, that's when the presenter, I can't force the presenter to present. The presenter stated that he was yielding back to the floor. And at that time, that's when I opened up to the floor. So Honorable Keon, at this time, we're raising an amendment. At that time, again, if there's any questions back to Vice Chair Smith, then I will, or directly to the auditor, then I can go ahead and go directly to the auditor for any questions or comments. That.
Question of privilege, Delegate Crotty.
Question of privilege, Madam Chair, Amicrati.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. I'll rephrase my question. So I requested a legislation from Legislative Council that was received 12/39 and was sent to the whole council and staff. I'm asking, with this amendment that is being requested, I don't have a copy of that amendment that's being requested by Delegate Charles Moon. I need a copy of that amendment, and if there's language in there that will conflict with the proposed amendment that was developed by Legislative Council to add the new exhibit. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Let me go to Mr. Rico to answer that question.
Thank you, Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti committee. At this time, we do not have an amendment from Honorable Charles Newton. We just have the one from Honorable Crotty. They are similar amendments, but we just have the one from Honorable Crotty. Speaker.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order from Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker. So I think there's a lot of confusion here. So I'm going to withdraw my motion and allow Delegate Crotty to make the motion because it's exactly the same thing. I just didn't get the email till after I made the motion. So if she wants to make the motion, that's fine. We just need to replace Exhibit A. That's it. So I'm gonna remove my motion, and whoever is next in the queue, I'm gonna assume that it's gonna be Delegate Crotty so that she can make the motion, which is what I did. But I'll just remove my motion so that she can make the motion.
Thank you, Madam Chair Charles Newton. With that withdrawal of the motion, and I didn't get it except call for a second at that time yet because it was a point of order or a question of privilege. So with that, back to the main motion. So I'm continuing on down back to the queue. Madam Chair Amicrati, floor is yours.
Point of privilege, Speaker Kelvin.
Point of privilege. Hold on, Madam Chair Amicrati. Point of privilege, Che, Honorable Keon Begay.
Speaker, I'll continue to interrupt the proceeding. That we would need to go back to the presenter, and I'd like to request the Legislative Council of what policy is there in place to request of the presenter to continue and complete their report. Speaker.
Okay, thank you, Honorable Keon Begay. Let me go back to Legislative Council to clarify that.
Thank you, Speaker. So, as I understand the way the proceedings have gone, the presentation by the sponsor and his agents was started, and then per the sponsor, it was completed. So now the legislation is in front of NABI for debate. As far as requiring the sponsor to continue the presentation, I don't find anything in the rules that where that's an option. I don't. The sponsor has said his presentation is complete. So I don't think that I can't find anything where he could be required to open his presentation up again. However, most certainly the delegates have the opportunity to ask questions about the legislation. And so I suspect that what the information that Delegate Kialan-Begay is requesting can be asked of the sponsor and presented in response to that question. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Barbara, for that clarity. With that, we go back to the floor. I do have Madam Chair Amber Crotty in the queue. Madam Chair, floor is yours.
Yes, thank you, Speaker. Thank you, colleagues. This
Speaker,
certainly has been.
Madam Chair Amber Crotty, could you hold on? There's a point of order. Che, Honorable Kialan-Begay, your point of order? Honorable Kialan-Begay, your point of order.
Speaker, point of order, Speaker. Could I ask my colleague to pose their question to the full council rather than trying to get answered directly from me? My point of order, I believe, is legitimate. We're told that people are listening, and I believe they truly need to understand and hear how the audit was developed and where it stands and how the council needs to comply and make amendment if necessary. Although it may be considered as draft, but we need to hear directly from the presenter. That's my point. So if you could please direct my colleague to stop bothering me. Thank you.
Speaker, this is Delegate Charles Newton.
Hold on, Honorable Kialan-Begay, I don't know about anybody bothering you. All I know is we were in the middle of Madam Chair Amber Crotty. I'm not too sure. If anybody's bothering Kialan-Begay, can you guys stop bothering Kialan-Begay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Speaker.
Yes, I'm going back to the floor. If you want to speak, Executive Chairman Yazi, I can put you in the queue.
Yes, could you please?
Okay, that, Madam Chair Amber Crotty, floor is yours.
Was there another point of order, Speaker?
No.
Okay, thank you. Speaker, I'd like to make a motion. I understand this audit is unlike any audit that the council and the committee have addressed in terms of COVID and the extension and with some of the challenges in receiving the documents that were needed to finalize the audit. Colleagues, I'd appreciate support in terms of adding the finalized exhibit and the motion. And so I appreciate Delegate Charles Newton for the previous amendment. Just trying to avoid any other conflict or language that would increase some of the confusion. So I appreciate colleagues. I recognize on teleconference it's a challenge. The language of the legislation was discussed at BNF, and there was some concern. So I appreciate committee members, and it's my hope in these unusual times that this amendment can provide the committee the final report, and you'll have, I believe it's approximately 120 pages, and so you'll have the full document. And Speaker, if staff can then send this link so that our public can download and be able to follow along with the discussion. Thank you, Speaker. That's my motion.
Thank you. There's a motion by Madam Chair Naabik'íyáti. Mr. Rico, if you could read it into the record.
Thank you, Speaker and members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee. Amendment number one on page 2, line 3, delete overstrike language in draft form and will be augmented by the 2020 independent auditor's report when finalized, end overstrike. 2, replace existing Exhibit A with new Exhibit A. 3, renumber, re-letter succeeding paragraphs, sections, and exhibits as necessary and appropriate. The Office of Legislative Services and the Office of Legislative Counsel, with notice to the sponsor of the legislation, are hereby authorized to make technical edits to this legislation as necessary and appropriate, to correct grammatical and scrivener's errors, to correct numerical errors, as long as such edits effectuate the committee's intent in approving this legislation. This amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment, which shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. Also attached with this amendment is the new Exhibit A, which is the Navajo Nation Basic Financial Statements, September 30th, 2020, with independent auditors report therein. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Colleagues, there is a motion for Amendment 1. Is there a second? Second by Madam Chair Charles Newton. Colleagues, any comments, questions on Amendment 1?
Speaker Kealan.
Twice. Honorable Kealan Begay, floor is yours.
Could the amending party clarify exactly, specifically targeting each of the pages that is being inserted into this particular amendment? Because I do have 2 documents indicating with different numbers. The latest one is 113, Speaker.
Thank you. Motion party. Madam Chair. Naabik'íyáti.
Speaker, this is Delegate Crotty. I'm sorry, Judge, I didn't catch all of that, but I did hear, so this is replacing the whole exhibit. It is attached on your email. And I have my digital copy, and I have it 113 pages. And this was sent out to the council at 12:39. And so this will replace the whole Exhibit A. So it's not inserting new pages, it's replacing the draft with the final report.
Thank you.
I hope that answers the question. Thank you.
Madam Chair. Colleagues, any other comments, questions?
Speaker Kealan,
Yes.
if there any other delegate wants to speak.
You're the only one, Honorable Kealan Begay. Floor is yours.
Okay, maybe this is maybe this is an opportunity to start asking the question to the presenter or the author of this particular document that's being amended. Speaker, that's my question first.
This is Naabik'íyáti Committee, Honorable Keon Begay. Whatever questions you ask is open, just as long as it's referring to the amendment. And in this case, it's swapping out the entire Exhibit A, so it would be the whole entire audit.
Speaker, could I ask, request of the author of this particular document to thoroughly review to the council of the content of this particular document? Speaker, that's my request.
Yes. That author of the document, Moss Adams, are you there?
Yes, Speaker, we're here.
Floor is yours, if you heard from Honorable Keon Begay.
I'm sorry, Honorable Keon Begay, can you repeat your question?
Speaker?
Yes, Honorable Keon Begay. You can.
Speaker, Mr. Khalid Moss, my request is 113 pages. I guess we started asking questions before you completing your statement on this particular presentation. Now that this is the complete, assuming that is being considered as a complete official document that you have developed, I'm asking you if you could thoroughly go through this document as clearly as you can for me to understand exactly the position of the Navajo Nation financial system. Mr. Speaker, that's my request.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Yes, sir. So
Could you state
the draft?
Could you state your name for the record again?
Yes, sir. My name is Ryan Lukemeyer from Moss Adams.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So the difference between the draft.
Point of order, Speaker.
Point of order, Madam Chair, Charles Newton. Floor is yours.
Speaker, I just want a clarification. So is the question to clarify the distinction between the draft audit and the actual complete audit? Or is the question pertaining to the entire audit before we actually vote to accept the amendment, which is to replace the draft audit with the actual audit?
Let me go back to Honorable Keon Begay to
Speaker,
clarify that.
The clarification, we are on Amendment 1. 113 document is being amended with a motion and a second. And I'm giving the floor and asking and requesting the author of this document to go through this document to get a comprehensive understanding of this particular document that's being amended. That's my request, Speaker.
It's a question on the updated Exhibit A. That's what I'm understanding.
Speaker, I don't know if that could be more clear.
Okay. Well, that's the case, Honorable Keon Begay. That's what he stated. So I'm going back. It's going back to individual from Moss Adams. Go ahead, sir.
Point of order.
Honorable Otto, point of order.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, Why are we going back to the report? We're on amendment number 1. Why are we going back to the report backtracking? I said, we need to continue to move forward with amendment number 1. Oh, I think not report, but not the Moss Adam already provided the report. As this amendment number 1 moves forward, we need to move forward to act on this legislation because we have 15 minutes to adjourn, and then we start the Navajo Nation Council. Of course, I think to go with Naabik'íyáti. Yeah.
Thank you, Honorable Otto. So this is Naabik'íyáti Committee. Honorable Keon Begay has a question on the amendment number 1. And on amendment number 1, Honorable Keon Begay's question is, to my understanding, what is the difference, or what is the makeup between Exhibit A original draft and Exhibit A the motioning party's making? So my understanding is going back, so he's clearly in line to ask that question. Moss Adams, go ahead.
Thank you, Speaker. The only difference between the draft version in Exhibit A and then the final version of the audit that you received is simply the nation's responses to the findings. We didn't receive that information until this week to incorporate in our final audit report. That is a requirement from the federal government to incorporate in the package that gets submitted to the federal government. And as a result, we cannot provide our draft audit reports within that draft version in the exhibit until, like we mentioned, the entire audit is finalized, which is the version you have now. And just real quickly, if you are looking on the pages of that 113 page document that was provided today, for example, page 102 is the nation provides us a status of last year's findings to determine if there was resolution or if it was not resolved, any corrective action taken, as well as on page 105, it's the nation's corrective action plan for the current year findings to provide resolution in the future. So those are the only items that were addressed or added to the final audit report that we did not receive until this week.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Colleagues, any other comments, questions on Amendment 1?
Speaker Kellen.
Keon Begay on Amendment 1.
Speaker Delegate Daniel So, add me to the queue.
Hey, Honorable Keon Begay, then Chairman Daniel So. Honorable Keon Begay.
2 questions, Mr. Adam. The first one is that could you pinpoint, because this is a new document, it's 113 pages long. Could you pinpoint me to where it generalized the overall financial statement of the Navajo Nation? Number 2, where could I find the external funding, specifically for the CARES funding that the Navajo Nation received? Could you pinpoint me to where it will illustrate how funding has been utilized, and at the time of your final write-up, what the balances are? So those are the 2 questions I have. I'll have follow-up after other committee members have posed questions. Speaker, thank you.
Speaker, question of privilege. This is Edmund Yazzie, sir.
Chairman Yazzie, I couldn't hear you.
Yeah, I asked for a question of privilege, sir.
Question of privilege, Chairman Yazzie, the floor is yours.
Speaker and members of the council, my question of privilege is that if we don't pass this legislation, then is it necessary to have the special session? And will it impact the budget for the entire Navajo Nation? Speaker, sir, that's my question of privilege.
The time now is 1:15 p.m. And if this, we have to stop this Naabik'íyáti committee at 1:59 p.m. And Chairman Yazzie, and to all my colleagues, if we do not pass this legislation, because we have a motion and second, and this legislation has been acted on, this legislation can still be, due to our council, our committee rules of order and our council rules of order, this legislation will still be eligible to be added on and be acted on at the Navajo Nation Council session due to the fact that there has been action on, and that there has been precedence on that before. Thank you, Chairman Yazzie.
Thank you, sir.
With that, let me go back to the presenter, or to Moss Adams. I want to answer Honorable Keon Gates' question. And then I'll go back.
Yes, sir.
To Chairman Daniel So.
Thank you, sir. The two questions, number one, on the 113-page document, on page 8 shows the nation's entire balance sheet for the essentially consolidated all of the nation's grant activities, general fund activities, not including the legally separate businesses, like, for example, the gaming enterprise and others. This particular page 8 shows the balance sheet of the nation, which at the end of the year, the nation had a little over $6.6 billion in total assets. And then on page 9 provides simply a revenues and expenditures of the nation. And at the end of the year, there was a positive inflow of resources of a little over $591 million. Now, the second question regarding the nation's CARES Act funding, it's obviously there's a lot of detail in here, but if you go to the very last page 110, I believe here, I'm just pulling this up, I'll explain. Yes, so page 110 at the end of, or 109, I apologize. The coronavirus relief funds of the nation, there at the end of September 30th, 2020, a little over $91 million was spent of that CARES Act money. And most of that was related to administrative leave for employees that was allowable based on the Treasury guidance. And then also various contractual services, tribal grants, and money provided to the gaming enterprises. Thank you.
Thank you for that clarity. With that, let me go on down. Chairman Daniel So, floor is yours. On Amendment 1.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Cecilia. Chair Seth Damon, auto sponsor of the legislation. My question to the presenter with Moss Adams. I'm late to the conversation. In your presentation, what is management's letter? Is this audit an unqualified audit or qualified audit? Thank you, Speaker. Back to you. And I may have follow-up questions depending on the response.
Thank you. Go back to Madam Chair Abercrombie.
Thank you, Speaker, committee members for the questions. I'm going to defer to Moss Adams, as these are questions relating to the Exhibit A. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you. Moss Adams, team members, floor is yours.
Thank you, Speaker. This is Tasha Rep from Moss Adams. There were two parts to that question. One, which was asking about the location of management's response. In the updated version of the financial statements, for each of the findings that we reported, there was a management response that was included that was not previously in the draft of those financial statements. And as my colleague Ryan Lukemeyer pointed out before, the nation also included their corrective action plan related to those findings and updated the responses about prior year findings. To your second question, which is asking for clarification on what our opinion on the financial statements is. As I indicated previously, the opinion on the financial statements was an unmodified or a clean opinion. Our opinion on the financial statements is noted on page 5 of the PDF or page 2 of the printed version, with the exception of the fact that the nation has excluded its legally separate entities like the gaming entity and others. So there is an adverse opinion solely related to the fact that the nation elected to exclude those legally separate entities from these financial statements.
Thank you. Now, colleagues, at this time, is there any further comments or questions on Amendment 1? Going twice. Going 3 times. Let's go to board on Amendment 1.
Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay did not vote. Honorable
I
Key
vote
Allen
green.
Begay. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canes Bakrati.
Senate Delegate Amber Canes-Bakrati, and I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canes Bakrati votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona. Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Henry votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So. Honorable Charlene So did not vote. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So is excused. Honorable Charlene So is excused. Honorable Otto So.
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Winika.
Green.
Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not vote. Going back up. Honorable Elmer Begay. Honorable Elmer Begay votes green via text. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair did not vote. Speaker, you have 19 in favor, 0 opposed, and chair not voting.
Thank you. That 19 in favor, 0 opposed, chair not voting, motion carries. Colleagues, we are back at the main motion on legislation 0169-21. With that, I do have Chairman Yazzie, floor is yours on the main motion.
I'll go ahead and pass and vote on the main legislation, so.
Okay, thank you. Moving on down, Chairman Nez, floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker Damon, honorable members of the 24th Navajo Nation Council. I was going to make a motion to table the legislation 0169-21 in order for it to be debated at the special session. Since there's nobody in the queue to debate, perhaps we could just vote on this. So we could vote on the next 0159, which is due today, and I would appreciate that. So I'm not going to make that motion to table since there's nobody in the queue, and if we could just vote on it, we could debate it at special session. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Nez. With that, colleagues, I don't have anybody else in the queue on legislation 0169-21. Again, this legislation will be presented at council in about 30 minutes, and then will also be debated there. Is there any other comments, questions on legislation 0169-21? Going twice. Going 3 times. That second reading for the one amendment.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, Amendment number 1 on page 2, line 3, delete, overstrike in draft form and will be augmented by the 2020 Independent Auditor's Report when finalized and overstrike. 2, replace existing Exhibit A with new Exhibit A. 3, renumber letter 16 in paragraphs, sections, and exhibits as necessary and appropriate. The Office of Legislative Services and the Office of Legislative Counsel, with notice to the sponsor of the legislation, are hereby authorized to make technical edits to this legislation as necessary and appropriate to correct grammatical and/or scrivener's errors, to correct numerical errors, so long as such edits effectuate the committee's intent in approving this legislation. This amendment shall supersede inconsistent language contained in any other committee amendment, which shall be conformed to the intent or language of this amendment. Also attached to this amendment is the new Exhibit A with the cover page, the Navajo Nation Basic Financial Statement, September 30th, 2020, with the independent auditor's report there. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. With that, let's vote.
Honorable Elmer Begay.
Over green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Key Allen votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Key Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canas-Balcrotty.
Shada, this is Delegate Amber Canas-Balcrotty, and I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Amber Canas-Balcrotty votes green. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Green.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Henyo votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Rick Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Delegate Slater, green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Green.
Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes green. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So is excused. Honorable Daniel So.
I vote green.
Honorable Daniel So votes green. Honorable Eugene So is excused. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Honorable Edison Winika.
Green.
Honorable Edison Winika votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
I vote green. Thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. did not vote. Speaker, you have 20 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting.
Thank you very much. With that, colleagues, that's 20 in favor, 0 opposed. Chair not voting on the main motion. That continue on down, colleagues. That legislation, well, the one that we just now passes on the motion, 0169-21 does move on to council, which is in about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. That, colleagues, continuing on down on our agenda, we do have legislation 0159-21, sponsored by Madam Chair Charles Newman, co-sponsored by Honorable Halona, With that, if we go read into the record, Mr. Rico.
Thank you, Speaker. Members of the Naabik'íyáti Committee, tracking number 0159-21 in action relating to the Naabik'íyáti Committee approving amended and new appendices to the 2021 Arizona Gaming Compact, sponsored by Honorable Chairwoman Eugenia Charles Newton and co-sponsored by Honorable Pernell Holona. This legislation is final authority at Naabik'íyáti per Navajo Nation Council Rules, Standing Committee Rules of Order, Rule 9. Legislation has been read into the record by electronic voice recording. Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. That, can I get a motion?
Delegate Nez, motion.
Chairman Nez, second.
Delegate Begay, Elmer Begay, second.
Elmer Begay. That, we go to Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Thank you, Speaker, and thank you, colleagues, for allowing this presentation to be heard today at Naabik'íyáti. 0159-21 pertains to the appendices to the 2021 Arizona Gaming Compact. In particular, we're looking at Appendix A that covers technical and operational standards, specifications, and regulations governing gaming devices. Appendix C, surveillance, security, and reporting requirements. Appendix H, minimum internal control standards, and Appendix I, computation and auditing of the tribal contributions. Also Appendix M for standards and self-exclusion, and also responsible gaming. I do have on the line with me my agent, Rory Delweger, who can provide more information about the appendix, but I do want to remind my colleagues that the compact was passed and approved by the Navajo Nation. I believe that this happened a couple of months ago in, I can't remember if it was June or July when we did pass the compact. The appendix portion of the compact are basically the terms that are defined within the compact. And this pertains to, again, the listing that I did provide. So, Speaker, I'm going to go ahead and allow my agent to cover a little bit more about the appendix, since he helped to author the appendix, Speaker. So if I can call upon my agent at this time.
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Mr. Rory Delweger, are you on the line? Star 6.
We need to slow. That's just
Honorable Yellow Hair, you might have to mute your phone.
Mr. Delweger, if you could do star 6.
I don't see.
Speaker Damon, we don't have Rory on the line. I do have our lobbyist Lewis and Roca on the line, and they can perhaps provide us a little bit more information about the importance of the appendix. I'd like to call upon Steve Hart at this time.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Chairwoman, I'm here. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, members of the Navajo Nation Council. Are there any particular questions you would like me to do or answer at this time, Chairwoman, or should I give an overview of the appendices?
If you could provide us an overview of the appendices, Steve, thank you.
My pleasure. There are a total of 5 appendices that we are really looking at this point. And they are Appendix A, C, H, I, and M. And Appendix A is the appendix that, very technical appendix. It governs slot machines and how slot machines are put together. We call them gaming devices when we're being very careful. But slot machines is the more casual term. Generally speaking, this appendices was one that was largely done before, back in April, May, when we had the compacts approved. There was a version of Appendix A which was approved by the council, but there are two things that were added during ongoing negotiations which are occurring over the appendices. And those two things are, number one, there was a maximum wager that was set for slot machines. And then the second thing is, when slot machines, gaming devices are brought to a casino, there's a process that needs to happen from the regulatory branch. And in Indian gaming, there's two regulatory branches that are at issue here. One is the State Department of Gaming, and one is the nation's Gaming Regulatory Office. And there were further provisions which were added to the appendix to clarify how those two entities would coordinate when they work together to have appendices, or not appendices, I'm sorry, to have slot machines put on the floor. That's Appendix A, and those are relatively minor changes, but we have to have them approved, of course, by the council. The next thing is Appendix C. C is in cat, and that's for surveillance and security. And that's what Appendix C does. It sets out it creates the surveillance and security protocols. The principal
This is Rory. I'm on
Okay, thank you, Rory. I'll just go through this overview, if that's all right, Chairwoman, and then Rory will be available to answer any questions. Would that be a way to work this, or would you like me to just turn this over to Rory right now?
Let's go ahead and turn the floor over to Rory. I understand that he was heavily involved in the drafting and also in the recommendations made to the appendices. And more importantly, I think we need to highlight what this means to the compact and to the Navajo Nation.
Thank you very much, Chairwoman. Rory, please. I was just on appendix.
What appendix were you on, Steve? I'm sorry.
I was on Appendix C as in cat. So all I've done so far is gone through the changes to Appendix A.
Okay, great. Thank you. I apologize, Madam Chair. I'm driving my father across the country to his new home, and I had to get off the call for a few minutes. So on Appendix C, Steve was talking about what Appendix C does is it creates and describes the surveillance and security protocols and standards. There is a lot of debate over the term unusual occurrences and what events need to be reported to the Arizona Department of Gaming. The new Appendix C limits what must be reported to the Arizona Department of Gaming to major incidents such as acts of terrorism, evacuation of a casino, or the death of a person by other than natural causes. Appendix H are the minimum internal control standards. And all Appendix H does is incorporate the NIGC bulletin, the 2018 NIGC bulletin, which lays out suggested minimum internal control standards. So what this appendix says is that the NNGRO and the Navajo Gaming Enterprise will follow the 2018 NIGC bulletin. It does allow for things to be changed in the future if the Arizona Department of Gaming and the Navajo Nation agree to change them. Appendix M are standards for self-exclusion and responsible gaming. And this codifies the part of the compact, it codifies the steps that the casino must take to keep excluded persons from patronizing the casino. Casinos have to offer individuals the right to exclude themselves from casino and provide people with information of responsible gaming and provide the contact information to the Arizona Department of Gaming's Division of Problem Gambling. And every month, or I believe it's every month, Arizona Department of Gaming will provide all casinos with a list of self-excluded people, and casinos must remove these people from marketing lists and check the list before issuing jackpots, players club cards, or promotional materials. If an excluded person were to come into the casino unnoticed and win a jackpot or other prize, that person the casino would have to not pay out the prize and donate that money to a charitable organization that specializes in the treatment of gambling or other addictions. Appendix I deals with the computation and auditing of tribal contributions. So under the compact, the NNGE and the Navajo Nation will have to pay the state 0.75%, which is much lower than the past compact, but 0.75% of Class 3 gaming net win. And so this Appendix I determines how net win is calculated for each type of Class 3 gaming conducted by the nation. Appendix I describes what expenses may be deducted from Class 3 gaming revenue. And, for example, lease payments for gaming devices can be deducted from revenue to calculate net win, but complimentary gifts to patrons could not be conducted. And net win calculations have to be reported to the Arizona Department of Gaming by the 25th day of each month. The Appendix I, or the updated Appendix I, adds provisions for all newly authorized games, except for event wagering, which will be considered in a separate appendix that is still being negotiation. So the recommendation that the NNGRO and NNGE is making is that to continue the efficient regulation of gaming and address future circumstances, this committee, upon recommendation of the Gaming Subcommittee, is authorized to approve other modified or new appendices. Sorry, that was from the past resolution. So we recommend that the committee approve the following modified and new Arizona Compact regulatory appendices. Appendix A, which is the Gaming Devices Appendix. Appendix C, which is Surveillance, Security, and Reporting. Appendix H, which is Minimum Internal Control Standards. Appendix M, which is Standards for Self-Exclusion and Responsible Gaming. And Appendix I, which is Computation and Auditing of Tribal Contributions. So that's all I have, Madam Chair, and I'd be available for any questions.
Speaker, that completes the presentation. We do stand for questions.
Thank you very much for that, colleagues. We do have a motion. We do have a second. Legislation 0159-21. Is there any comments or questions at this time?
Vice Chair Smith.
Vice Chair Smith, what's yours?
Thank you, Speaker, and those that are on the Naabik'íyáti committee. We're talking about compacts, and the compacts are geared towards Navajo Nation and the Navajo Nation's gaming. Now, in that compact, is there any talk about 24-hour coverage of law enforcement? Is that one of the things that's been provided in the compact? I know we're at the pinnacle. To the Belatra. No. And in data, Twin Arrows was on the building, there's nobody there. And the other day we were on public safety's budget, and that was brought up. Shada from Delcon was saying, Chita hasna, they twin arrows and data. Just allow Bananish Ada Yusin. I do not up the world there. Ada hot Ada. Couldn't say the Delcon. So in this compact, I know that the compact is Arizona and one for New Mexico. Are we also including that in there, or is that just the machines, and now we're opening the door, it sounds like, to internet gambling? Is that what this compact is doing? Those are some of the concerns, and I know that the COVID-19 too is really putting a hamper in the patrons. We're back to 50%. The other day I was driving past Fire Rock, and I seen the parking lot full, and there was no line out there waiting for people to exit and next one go in there. Oh Hashit. I don't go to these places. I don't participate in those places due to the fact that COVID-19 is still rampant in that Delta, and we have our grandmas and grandpas. And the other thing too is I understand that there's a talk about the closure of smoking and having the smoking ban. Is that part of the compact? Is that from the state of Arizona? Are they reaching over and telling us casinos that you have and you run in Arizona will be smoke free? If that's the case, some of our sovereign has been dwindled down in order to appease the compact. Those are my questions and concerns. And if this COVID-19 continues and we're doing this compact, will this compact be compromised and we have to go back to the state? And how long is this compact? I'm not on gaming. That's why I'm asking this question. I'm not on gaming, and I'm not on those meetings as we speak, but I'm sure that the other thing too, Shananta, is when are we going to audit? When are we going to audit the gaming? How much money are they making? And are they paying back their bill? I understand that they owe $190 million. $190,935,667 as of September 30th, 2020. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that's the principal. That's not including the interest. How are they going to pay that back through Navajo Nation Gaming? I think that's where we should have the audit. How are they managing that money? How much are they paying back the nation? Are they having a hard time? Because if this variant does go up, they'll be back at the door saying, ARPA money. ARPA money. And that's going to be an added cost to the principal balance. Those are my questions, Shananta. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me go. Colleagues, the time now is 1:53 p.m. Go back to you, Madam Chair Charles.
Thank you for that, Speaker. Shajad, Delegate Smith, thank you for those questions. I just want to remind my colleagues that the questions pertaining to the compact is not what we're talking about today. We're talking about the appendices. I think that the questions posed by Vice Chair Smith, those questions should have been asked back in April when the compact was voted on. And so we're talking specifically about the appendices. I'm trying to go back and look directly at all of the definitions for the appendices regarding the questions that are being posed. I don't see that as being part of the appendices. I'll leave that to Rory to decide, but I just want to say clearly, Speaker, that we're talking about the appendices today, not the actual compact. So we're just, again, trying to define the terms that were already included in the compact. And then as far as the audit, I'm looking at the audit right now that was given to us. I'm looking at the full audit. I know that there has been an audit on a few of the businesses, at least what I'm looking at on page 6 of the audit. And we don't have on that listing gaming. And I think that it is the right of any delegate to request an audit be done on a particular enterprise. So we do welcome that, I guess, legislation that would do that. So at this time, I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to Rory so that he can ask, or he can answer the questions that have been posed by Vice Chair.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I believe. Oh,
go ahead.
I believe that you were right in saying that the questions that were asked do not pertain to the appendices that are before the committee at the moment. They're in regards to the overall compact between Arizona and the nation, which was approved earlier this year. I know that I would be happy to make a presentation to whoever would like to ask questions about the compact at a later time, but it's not before the committee at the moment.
Thank you. Now, colleagues, any other comments, questions? It's 1:56 p.m. Going twice. Going 3 times. Scoreboard. Legislation 0159-21.
Honorable Elmer Begay.
Green.
Honorable Elmer Begay votes green. Honorable Q Allen Begay Jr.
Delegate Q Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Q Allen Begay Jr. votes green. Honorable Paul Begay.
Delegate Paul Begay votes green.
Honorable Paul Begay votes green. Honorable Nathaniel Brown.
Delegate Brown votes green.
Honorable Nathaniel Brown votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton.
Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty did not vote. Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr.
Green.
Honorable Herman M. Daniels Jr. votes green. Honorable Mark Freeland.
Freeland votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Mark Freeland votes green. Honorable Pernell Halona.
Halona votes green.
Honorable Pernell Halona votes green. Honorable Jamie Henyo. Honorable Jamie Henyo.
Henry votes green.
Honorable Jamie Henyo votes green. Honorable Vince James.
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Rick Nez.
Delegate Nez votes green.
Honorable Rick Nez votes green. Honorable Carl Slater.
Green.
Honorable Carl Slater votes green. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr.
Red.
Honorable Raymond Smith. Honorable Raymond Smith Jr. votes red. Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr.
Green.
Honorable Wilson Stewart Jr. votes green. Honorable Charlene So is excused. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not vote. Honorable Eugene So is excused. Honorable Otto So.
Green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. Honorable Thomas Walker.
votes green.
Honorable Thomas Walker Jr. votes green. Honorable Edison Winika.
Red.
Honorable Edison Winika votes red. Honorable Edmund Yazzie.
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair.
Delegate Yellowhair votes green. Thank you.
Honorable Jimmy Yellowhair votes green. Going back up. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty. Honorable Amber Canasba Crotty did not vote. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So. Honorable Daniel So did not vote. Speaker, you have 17 in favor, 2 opposed, and Chair not voting.
That colleague, 17 in favor, 2 opposed, Chair not voting, motion carries on legislation 0159-21. That colleagues, time now is 2 o'clock. We are officially adjourned, timed out on our Naabik'íyáti committee. That give us about 10 minutes, colleagues, before we call in again, so we can switch over to our Navajo Nation Council session. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.